Hey everybody, my name is Brad Hine and I am the channel manager for ETI Software. I want to talk to you about location-based intelligence today and some of the cool tool sets that ETI is utilizing today with our customers and also with other digital service providers. And whether you're a traditional telecom, cable company, utility service provider, anybody looking to digitally transform can use a context of locations-based intelligence for providing more context to what you're doing. So let me get started real quick here. So more importantly today, I want to share some examples of how we are combining location intelligence with business intelligence and smart workflows through our single platform. So I want to show you some of the offerings that we have so far with our customers and some simple ways that they're quickly being able to identify, analyze, respond, and then resolve issues in a holistic way throughout their organization. So before I get started, I want to say quickly, my prior role at ETI, I spent a little over 8 years managing our GIS and analytics plugins to our core ETI product. So the idea with that was to translate data from within a CRM, OSS, a BSS, or an ERP system to a dashboard, a simple location context, and give a 360-degree view of your footprint, your subscribers, services, service delivering devices, and to start to phase out traditional form-based or list-based workflows that are not so efficient at times. So some of the basics here. So what is it and why do we care? Location-based intelligence. So the idea is just provide a visual map-based reference. Everybody uses a map. Everyone has a phone with a map in it that I'm sure they use about every single day. And as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. A map interface, an interactive map, is worth 10 times that. So identifying geospatial relationships with data patterns, the ability to know where your subscribers are, where your assets are, where your workforce is, your projects, your tickets, and prioritize their place in your business and your operations timeline is absolutely crucial to each of the service providers. Presenting data in layers. So we all know that data is grouped in certain categories. So there's a ton of data in broadband service providers that I know it currently isn't always used by the entire organization. So, but there are other industries that actually do leverage this across their timelines. So the idea of presenting this in layers just makes it easy to turn on and off as we're analyzing certain patterns as the day goes. In showing this in a dashboard, this is where the intelligence really comes in. Empowering your employees to enable quick decision making also. So nothing is more frustrating than if we're in a process where we have to swivel chair, where we can't get information to do our jobs quickly. And a system like this will allow us complete visibility outside of form-based type software and interfaces. Prioritizing the subscriber experience. Like I just said, we're all very in tune with some of the things that make our jobs longer throughout the day. And the idea in all of this is to put the subscriber first, is to make sure that everything that we do is making the subscriber experience easier. So in time saving and everything we're going to do here, and I'm going to talk about in a little bit with location context, we'll solve some of that. Leveraging the data in your system. So there's lots of different types of data, and there's lots of different ways businesses like to analyze their data. So I'll say the main point of a platform like this, a truly open platform, like a service management platform, is there are certain manual pieces or daily processes that we have. If we share this information in a unified system, we can start to unfold some of the descriptive analysis. So current data that's in the system and historic trends will be revealed. Predictive data. So we have that data decisions on future events to maybe avoid some negative things in the future, and then prescriptive also. So that data that allows us to determine, now we have it all, what are our options and actions moving forward. Like I mentioned, location-based intelligence has been around. You know the phrase location, location, location is a popular phrase, and not just in the real estate industry, but for decades, people have been using location-based intelligence in all types of different industries. The banking institutions, the financial institutions have to track economic conditions across their footprint. They have to tie certain information to certain locations and addresses. Insurance, risk management, claims tracking, as inclement weather happens and other types of insurance events, they have to track things in terms of location and regions, and then they have to make adjustments based on that. Large events, I recently saw a study on a location event of quickly getting attendees in and out of football stadiums in regards to security operations, crowd flows, the density of all that built into one workflow so they could work more productively. In terms of manufacturing and supply chain, I don't need to say anything other than Amazon. Amazon uses location-based context on a daily basis for every single package they ship. It's absolutely essential to everything they do. Health and Human Services, patient tracking, dispatching, ambulances and vehicles, tracking supplies across hospital territories. And we just got out of a pandemic where one of the first things that I saw as the pandemic started was tracking the incidents across the globe, per state, per country, of COVID events. Real estate, we're all very in tune with things like Zillow and all of the information that it tracks. And thinking about this model in telecom, if you look at Zillow and you just peruse a residential lot, it tells you things like how many beds, baths, the price estimate or the range, a recent percentage of drop. Does it have central HVAC? Are there HOA dues? What's the lot size? What are the tax records? What are the purchase histories? Just an example of so much information about one property that has a location context that they share with you online. So in terms of telecommunications here, as I was saying, there's so much information that we're taking in. We're starting to see geospatial context in a lot of different applications in telecommunications right now. But let me give you a quick example of how much it's needed throughout an organizations. And when I interview different departments in an organization, so traditionally, I see map-based context used in two groups, in engineering and marketing. So these are two pretty important groups for particular ISPs and broadband. But for marketing, we have things like homes passed and demographic information, property parcels, take rates, consumption. We want to know saturation rates. We just want to know buying and selling patterns across the footprint. For engineering groups, it's essential we know street lines, center lines, feeder, distribution fiber, where that is, poles, enclosures, fiber drops, but we also have to know spatial information about how far apart they are. We need to know how to track certain circuits and how to do traces through those things. The interesting thing is that a lot of this information is trapped in these departments. It's not free to utilize for the whole organization. And that's a challenge because as we move into digitally transforming these organizations to get us to be more unified and make decisions quicker, we have to release this data to other groups. So in terms of how we kind of build these data layers, I mentioned data layers before. In terms of digital transformation, we tend to think of data layers as very simple. When we look at a map, just a simple map, and we see things like streets, and we see parcels, we may see elevation, land usage. we'll see customers, lots of different types of layers for everything. In telecommunications, it's a bit more specific. So of course, we're going to have homes passed and subscribers. We have to see that layer. We want to see the street lines and parcels. But then we start getting into a bit more complexity. I want to see those subscribers, but I want to know all their services, and I want to know how it trends across that footprint. I want to know if they have service packages. I want to know what assets they have, what part of the network they're on. What kind of CPE do they have? Do I need to decommission some of that CPE at a later date? I want to know alerts and monitoring. So we're starting to get into other departments here. And as I kind of mention all these things, an example that a customer gave me recently was an engineering team needs to see all that network information so they can stay on top of the construction of the network. But then as soon as that network is done, a CSR needs to see that information to know what parts of the network are live and active so they can make decisions on who can be customers and where the newest installs can go. And as soon as that's done, the field crews maintaining this network and completing various tasks need to know where the other field crew folks are, where the tickets are, and when they're completed, and who's having issues. Then the NOC needs to see all this live monitoring as the alerts I just mentioned. They need to start seeing the tickets, the work orders, the service installs, the workers' schedules, the billing and financial info. This is a lot of layers that represent a lot of different systems. And so my point here is when you're utilizing a truly open and unified system, this data is a bit easier to get at. It's a bit easier to display in a very simple visual context. So let me walk through a couple of use cases that have been kind of popular for customers over the years, and just to give you a visual context for this. So the title of this slide is "Where's my stuff and what's going on?" So very simply put, I just want to be able to look at a visual signal and context to know what's happening. I can identify layers, and here I'm identifying layers as service areas. Service areas will define where phases of the network might be deployed, which means all of those folks are connected to similar parts of the network if we have to trace things like common failures or commonalities across a network. So we want to display equipment types. We know the types of equipment. Sometimes we have different vendors. We want to see where the equipment is deployed. And clustering the data is absolutely essential, because if we put all of the data points on one map, you wouldn't be able to see anything. So the visual, the interface experience is absolutely essential. And so what I'm showing here is, you're probably seeing, is there's an alert. There's what looks like an alarm going off around where it says 27 ONTs. Now the ability to zoom in and start to see a street layer, other things are starting to be divulged now, other items on the map. So as I zoom in, I'm seeing this now, it's next to 2 ONTs in that area. And so our second use case is divulged. So I'm looking at a couple ONTs that appear to be offline, or we can't connect to them right now. We know that because on the ETI system, we're pre-integrated to the access network vendor and the management software there. So we're pulling information and showing it visually over other types of data that doesn't necessarily live in that access network system. So what I want to do now, what would be really helpful, is if I can interact with that data. I need to know more. I don't just need to know there's an alarm or there's a device that's down. I need to be able to drill down into that location and just retrieve some simple information before I make a decision. I can click on an ONT or any device or property on a map and get a prompt to do a couple things. Now, I see there's a certain device here at an address. I want to open this up and just take a look at it. So here, now I'm starting to pull in information from the inventory system. This is a deployed piece of inventory. It shows the account that it's on. It's even showing me the product, meaning the service. It looks like it's a gig service, and it's showing me a drop cable right there. So as a CSR, somebody just taking this in, it's very easy to see what's going on here quickly and gather some quick information. And on top of that, I can look at some of the other attributes of the network, like the number of ports on that ONT. So I can see it's got a couple voice ports, it's got a video port, other attributions too. And importantly, I can see that very simple circuit. If you look in the bottom right corner, I can see that device is inactive currently. But if I go to the left upstream, I can see that fiber terminal SR150 is active, which is good because I know this is localized. That's an issue that's local. Down towards the node and then back to the network operations center. Everything looks good so far. And once again, I'm feeding this information right through the pre-integrations that ETI already has. So what do I do now? I've interacted with it. Now, what can I do? I probably need to launch a ticket and let somebody know. So I have the option to create a workflow. So our use case 3 is launch a flow from that map, create that work order. I can go ahead and start bringing up a ticketing application right in my unified platform. I can select the ticket type, the type of device, and the type of order that I need, the equipment I might need. If I have to switch something out, it looks like an ONT, I'm going to test it and maybe replace it. The time allotted. There might be some custom instructions too, like this one here says the ONT is around the back of the house. It's next to the large window. Any way to save time when somebody's on site is crucial. So it's also in a wizard-driven workflow. So all I need to do is press next stage. I've filled out all of my requirements here, as you can see, with some of the green checks. Now to close that work order, all I have to do is click finish. It should be scheduled. It's finished. And now I can forward it to my dispatch and get it into another system where another group can look at it, like our field management software. So it zips it right into an application where now the workforce team can now manage that ticket on a time schedule. And guess what? They're using a map-based tool also for all their field workers. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. I appreciate the opportunity of being able to present this and show you some of the cool things that we have going on.